Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, broadcasting live every Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. Central from Panama City Beach, Florida, home of the world's most beautiful beaches. I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining me on my weekly broadcast. Every week, I'll feature some of the best instructors, coaches, authors, and entrepreneurs in the golf business today. I begin with a great discussion on Coach's Corner, followed by an insightful interview with my special guest. So let's get started by introducing tonight's Coach's Corner panel. All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and we've got another great show for you this evening here on the blogtalkradio.com network. We're going to be starting off here in just a moment, of course, with another panel discussion here on Coach's Corner, and tonight is going to be the panel of the Johns, and I'll explain to you a little bit about that in just a moment. And then later in the broadcast, I'm going to be joined by my very special guest, Don Helinski, Director of Operations at Forest Dunes Golf Club in the Michigan area. And we'll talk to him a little bit later on the show, talk about some of the new things going on at Forest Dunes and some very, very interesting stuff that's been happening there. So make sure you tune in for that. Don't forget, Golf Talk Live is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing top quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And of course, Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, offering insightful reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top PGA and LPGA teacher professionals, all designed to help improve your game from tee to green. So don't forget to subscribe today at golftipsmag.com. All right, as I mentioned, we're going to be starting things off here with Coach's Corner, and I've got two gentlemen on the line tonight. First up is John Hughes. He's a PGA Master Professional and an honorary president of the North Florida PGA section. He was also a recipient of the 2013 PGA of America Horton Smith Award. And he is a senior editor and Golf Tips Magazine Top 25 instructor, and of course is part of the Golf Tips advisory staff. Also joining is the other John. I told you there were two Johns. John Decker, PGA instructor, motivational speaker, and also a senior editor and Top 25 instructor, as well as part of the Golf Tips advisory staff. He was the 2015 Southern Ohio Teacher of the Year. Prior to that, he was the head instructor at the Grand Cypress Golf Academy, Cypress Academy of Golf, where he worked under top 100 instructors Fred Griffin and Phil Rogers, and he authored the book Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game, which of course has an accompanying Bible study. Gentlemen, welcome to Coach's Corner.
Thank you, Ted.
All right, thanks, guys. All right, we're going to start off with, we're going to talk about some of the common problems, if you will, that every beginner particularly makes. But I wanted to ask you guys this question, and I want to get feedback from both of you on this. We've mentioned a number of times on the show that there are a lot of women of all ages that have really sort of gravitated to golf over the last few years. In fact, according to some of the statistics, depending on who you listen to, it can range anywhere from about 30 to 35% of all new golfers starting each season are women, and ranging from about 13 up to about 35, and of course there are older and younger even than that, but that's generally the range of the majority of them coming into the game. So my question is, I'm going to start with John Decker, and I'm going to refer to them as their last names from here on out, just so that everybody knows which John is answering the question. So it's kind of a three-part question. I want to get some feedback on this. So with so many women getting into the game, where should they begin? Number one, what do they often do wrong as a beginner, and what do they do right? Mr. Decker.
Well, first of all, Ted, thank you for having me on the show. And John, I look forward to, as always, being on with you. Starting out with the first part of the question was for the women was, could you repeat that again? I'm sorry, Ted.
I'll repeat the whole thing. So with so many women getting into the game, obviously it's a big number, roughly a third of all new golfers. The first part of the question is, where should they begin? What should they be doing first when they are wanting to begin playing golf? What do they often do wrong as a beginner, and what do they do right? So there's three parts to that. What's the first step they should take when they're first learning to or coming to the game? What quite often are they doing wrong as a beginner? What are some things that you've noticed that maybe they do wrong that would help make the process a little bit better for them? And also, what are some of the things that they are doing right as a beginner?
Well, first of all, one of the things that I noticed that I see a lot with the women when they start playing, especially juniors and a lot of younger girls, is I recommend that they start out with some sort of organized instruction, and typically, the juniors like to do it in groups. I've always found that one of the best ways for girls, and this goes for junior boys as well, but is to do it in groups, whether it's 2 to 4. And if it gets larger than that, then it can get a little bit distracting. But, girls by nature are a little more social when they're younger and when they're first learning the game than the boys are. Boys, they like more of the competition style. So, with the boys, I'm doing a lot more, competition and beat the pro type stuff. Girls, I try to get them in groups where it's, the social aspect is such a big part of it. As far as what they do wrong and what they do right, typically, and this goes for whether they're female or male, when they first start, is just in basic fundamentals and, how they hold the club and the things that, most people when they walk into a introductory golf lesson, they're not going to know how to hold the club. The biggest issue that I see with a lot of the girls versus the boys is the boys usually have a little bit more of a sports background as far as playing more sports. Now, this has changed a lot over the years, and you see a lot of girls playing soccer. You see a lot of girls playing lacrosse, which is I'm amazed at the number of women that are playing lacrosse. So there is some similarities there, but a lot of times when girls come and they're taking lessons for the first time, their background may be only in dance or they're into singing or something different. And so I have to tailor my presentations and the way I present the information to them a little bit differently. What they do right is, quite frankly, they listen better. They're much better listeners than the boys are, and that goes for the women as well. They tend to really take notes. They tend to really gravitate on what you tell them to do, and they will follow you step by step in what you ask them to do. And so that's what as a teacher, that's very gratifying and very encouraging, because they're not, misbehaving and getting in trouble. They're typically a little bit better in the listening skills.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they tend to be more focused. It's interesting, as I've mentioned many times in the program, Tuesday mornings, of course, I co-host with my good friend LPGA professional Cindy Miller, and we're actually just starting back up again with some of the Symetra Tour players. In fact, we're going to be interviewing our first winner next Tuesday, obviously because they, like many of the other tours, have been on kind of a hiatus. And one of the interesting things is they're very, very focused in their game. And you raise a lot of interesting points. I'm sure John Hughes will concur with a lot, but that you've said, and maybe have some other thoughts as well. But they're very, very focused. They're very really pay attention and don't tend to stray off of instruction. If they don't agree with something, they'll certainly talk about it and whatever. But if you specifically ask them to do things, they're very, very mindful of that and will not stray from that unless they feel that it's not in their best interest, and then they'll obviously engage in a conversation with their coach or their teacher professional. John Hughes, what about your thoughts, Mr. Hughes, as we say? I know you probably concur a lot with Mr. Decker, but what have you noticed? Number one, where do you think they should begin coming into the game? How should they begin? And what are some of the things that you've seen them doing wrong starting out as a beginner? And what are some points that you've noticed that they do right? And I think, John, I'm not sure if you – my apologies. I guess we got dropped. Did you hear the question, John?
I did. Thanks for the opportunity, Ted, to be on the show again this evening. John, appreciate your answers as always. What I see in general, whether it's male or female, as far as starting, is from the smallest things to the biggest things. Golf can be overwhelming to a beginner, whether female or male, old or young, whether they have athletic ability or not. I don't really believe there's anything someone does wrong so much as maybe they're not doing it in the right sequence. And I'd never use the word wrong as I coach my clients. I'll always suggest possibly a better way or possibly a different way because golf brings such negative connotation and circumstance more often than not. So when it comes to the beginners, terming things correctly to build some confidence. And there's no better way of building some confidence than sinking a few putts right away and having an understanding of what little bit that takes. Quite often, a lot of people have played putt-putt before. And in this day and age, they're going to the standalone amusement-type golf facilities and making a swing of the club. And they may get frustrated doing that. I bring them back to the basics of not only the putting but the full swing. What I see people doing right, not only females but males, is their passion for the game, their passion to want to learn. The listening, that's all part of it. But when it comes to doing something right, just repeating it in general is something that you're going to be doing right. If you're a beginner and you give it up, well, you've given it up. And like anything, it takes a few repetitions to get it right, or at least right for you. And then being able to build from that, from the green backwards into, say, a driver at some point within a clinic setting. There's nothing that says you can't work backwards. And what I've found throughout the years, especially with an absolute beginner, that if you can build them up backwards from putting to driving, give them a little bit of knowledge of the golf course, build some confidence, male or female, you'll get them where you want them to go, which is having fun and continuing to play the game.
Yeah, you raise some very interesting points about really, first and foremost, golf is and can be very, very difficult and can be very overwhelming for those that have never played or maybe been exposed to the game very much. So I think I would agree. I think you have to start with the basics and not just the fundamentals. Obviously, those are important, but just something very simple. Even getting out on the putting surface and hitting a few short putts and maybe working on some chipping and things like that. Just getting them comfortable with the clubs and helping them to understand the various roles and what they can and cannot do with the club. I think sometimes just being very basic can be less intimidating. When you're dealing with the full swing, that takes a little bit more effort and energy, of course, as we all know. And I think sometimes to start people off on that end of things, John, you and I, I'm referring to Hughes here, we talked about recently about a program, Operation 36, which is a very interesting program. And if you want to just take a moment, John, and maybe sort of gloss over an overview of what, for those that are not familiar, what Operation 36 is. I think it's a great program, and particularly for beginners, I think this is something. If you want to just maybe share a little bit about Operation 36.
Sure. It's the brainchild of a professor of golf management and several of his students at Campbell University several years ago, where they really brought it down to the simplicity of the game, that over the course of 9 holes, par, for the most part, equals 36. So what can we do each and every time out as coaches to have our clients shoot 36? And it's based on ability. It's based on a growth curve. You start at the green, and if it takes you 4 putts per hole to score 36, then Guess what? You scored 36. Congratulations. Let's see if you can score 9 less, which is 27 next time, which means you're going from 4 putting to 3 putting. As you progress, you're moving backwards from the green to the point where you can still score 36. When you're scoring higher than that, then that's the time to stop. You know, those are the skills that you need to work on. Those are the skills that it's time to master, for lack of a better way of saying it. And as you get better at these skills, then we can move you backwards again with the concept of you only move backwards when you're ready to shoot 36 from that further distance. It's a novel concept. It is very popular. I met with them last week to potentially do this at a second facility I'm considering, and it's a phenomenal way to get somebody involved while still stoking their confidence and having them understand, hey, it's okay to start small and work to big. And I think in the not too distant future, you'll probably see a couple Symetra, LPGA, PGA, Korn Ferry people that literally started with that concept of Operation 36. I wouldn't be surprised to see that at all.
Yeah, it's a very interesting. I really like it. You know, it was actually mentioned to me a little while back by Cindy Miller, who is, as you are, a big proponent of that. And I think it really, again, introduces people to an easier way to help learn and get some early positive feedback. I mean, that's so crucial in this game. All right. As I mentioned, we were going to talk about – thank you for that, John, by the way. As I mentioned, we were going to talk about some of the common problems, and John Decker, one of the issues that a lot of people have is the inability to read greens. Give us a little bit of lesson, if you will. I know we don't have the benefit of visual here on the program, but maybe you can just talk people through about what you're looking for and what we mean by reading the green.
Well, this is one of my favorite things to go over in the short game. The first thing that I often will ask students to think about is when you watch a construction of a new road, before they ever build the roads, the first thing they do is they build the retention pond and they put the drainage in and all of that. And basically they have to move the water. Well, a golf architect has to do the same thing. If water is allowed to stand on a green, it will kill a green. And the greenskeepers are very aware of this. And so when they develop and they build this, the first thing they do is they put in a golf course is they build the low areas. So they build all the ponds and all of the areas or the slopes, add the slopes in to drain the water. So that's one of the first things I try to get students to do is look for the low areas. I also try to teach people about what's called the linear plane. And that's to find the highest point of the green, which is typically, not always, but typically somewhere on the back. And then the lowest area, which is always or typically on the front. Again, this can be, I've seen linear planes that go from right to left and left to right, and some that go from front to back. Nicklaus is famous for adding like one of those holes on every one of his golf courses. So you want to think about like a sheet of paper, and tilting it. If you wanted to drain water off of it, how would you tilt it and where would you tilt it? So I'm always getting students to focus on that. And then I look for crowns, which are high areas. So if you think about your hat, if you take a golf hat off, the very top of that is the crown. And so a lot of the architects will put crowns in where the high areas are. So anytime the pin is on a high area, it is very difficult to get to, because if you miss it a little bit to the left, it rolls left. If you miss it a little bit to the right, it goes right. Short, it comes up comes right back to you. And if you hit it too hard, it goes past. And then the last things are the saddles, or the low areas. So anytime you have a crown, which is a high area, you have to have a low area. Now, when they put the pin in the low areas, it's much easier. So if you think about the Masters at number 16, Number 16, they put the pin on the back left. That is in a saddle. So a lot of the players will hit the ball to the right of the hole, 20, 30 feet right of the hole, and then gravity will bring it down to the hole. But you notice on either Friday or Saturday, sometimes on Thursday, they put the pin on top on number 16, and that hole plays much more difficult. I've seen guys hit it in there 6 feet, and then it rolls back down the slope, and they have a 45, 50-footer straight up that hill. So that's obviously not an ideal situation to be in. So I try to instruct and teach players to look for those areas, the linear plane, the crowns, and the saddles. And then you have to pay attention to obviously where the pin is, and then, which side of the green, all these factors are going to be in, which you couldn't possibly go over in a podcast. But if you can learn to identify the linear plane, the saddles, and the crowns, you're going to start being much more educated. And remember, there's not a golf green in America that's level. There may be level putts, but there's not a golf green that's ever built that's level. Otherwise, it wouldn't last one summer. So really pay attention to that, and that should really help you in your greens reading.
And John, let me just ask you one more thing, because a lot of people, look at this as well when reading the greens. Is important to know is which way the green. Quite often, we look from one direction, the green looks a little bit lighter, and when we look from another direction, it's a little bit darker. Just very quickly, if you wouldn't mind, explain what that's about.
Well, it's real simple. Grain grows downhill. There's a lot of people that have said in the past that it grows with the setting sun, but that is not true. It grows downhill. And so if you're downhill, if you have a downhill putt, it's going to look very brown and kind of almost like a shiny shade to it. If it looks really deep, rich, and green, you're going into the grain, which means you're going uphill. So when you watch, a lot of times you really see this in Florida when you watch when the Florida swing happens. You can see from the aerial shot of the green, you'll see some areas that look really green and bright, or like really, really rich and green, and then you see other areas that look brown. If it looks brown, that's downhill. If it looks really rich and green, that's uphill.
Very good. Mr. Hughes, I'm going to give you this question about bunkers. We're going to deal with, particularly for the moment, greenside bunkers. And here's some helpful tips, I guess. There are different types of greenside bunker shots. Some are a little bit longer. Obviously, some are a little bit shorter. Does the swing differ a little bit depending on the distance? Obviously, we're going to take the club back a little bit more and stuff, but what about the trajectory of our swing? Is it going to be more abrupt and upwards on a short bunker shot, or is it going to be a little bit more level for a longer bunker shot?
Well, when we're talking about a beginner, the first thing I have them understand is a bunker shot is no different than hitting a pitch shot. That if you can hit a basic pitch shot to 40, 50 yards, whatever the case may be for them, you take that same swing into the bunker. To me, greenside bunkers is probably the most over-taught aspect of golf. There's a lot of do's and don'ts based on whose camp you're in or whose camp you buy into. When you realize that modern wedges with the bounce that's designed into them and the leading edges, how they're designed and ground, that you can literally leave a sand wedge square or even close to a target, and if you make a pitch shot swing, 9 times out of 10 it gets out of the bunker. And for a beginner, that's most important, is to have them understand the simplicity of it and have them understand that if they make a swing they're used to making somewhere else on the golf course, that the ball will get out. Now, of course, the ball position's got to change so you can explode some sand into it, but that's only one adjustment versus multiple adjustments that other methods, I'll use that term, will have you try to buy into. Once you can get the ball out consistently, I think what a beginner finds is their ability to not only alter their swing, but alter certain setup positions that allows for trajectory to go a little bit higher, go a little bit lower, have the ball travel not as far, have the ball travel further, have it stop versus release. The real key for a beginner is just learning to get it out. If what I've found in the past, if I move a beginner forward in the timeline of hitting bunker shots because they have a question and they're not getting 9 out of 10 out, typically they'll run into some frustration. They'll start trying to manipulate this particular type of shot to their detriment. Typically what you'll see is somebody trying to scoop the ball out, trying to lift it out versus explode the sand into it. So once you can understand your setup position, ball slightly forward of where you had it for a pitch shot, you're just trying to hit the pitch shot and hit a proverbial or actual line, because rakes make lines in the sand. If you can pick out a line, half inch, depending upon the structure of the sand, and hit that line to explode the ball out with the sand, that's as simple as it gets for the beginner. Once you can get that concept, moving into one adjustment at a time, maybe altering your swing, maybe altering ball position forward, maybe opening up the golf club, having an understanding of opening your stance or closing your stance, but just taking one adjustment at a time and understanding what that one adjustment does to that 9 out of 10 swing that gets it out makes hitting greenside bunker shots just that much easier. It's not about all the do's and don'ts. The only do is to get it out when you're a beginner, and a pitch shot swing will do that for you.
Well said. Yeah, I think I agree. I think a lot of emphasis put on, a lot of the different techniques and theories, if you will, of how to get out of the bunker. But the truth of the matter is, getting out is the number one priority. Is let's get it out of the sand and get it back in play. Very well said. Mr. Decker, we're going to talk just a little bit, or rather you are, about chipping and wedges. We always hear for a long time that, obviously with a chip shot, unlike a pitch shot, we want to get the ball rolling as soon as possible. We're dealing with shorter distances than we would typically with a pitch shot. And most recreational golfers have pretty much stuck with one club, maybe their pitching wedge or another wedge that they're comfortable with. But that's not always necessarily the best selection. If you're working with a new student, let's say, or a beginning golfer, and you're teaching them that aspect of the game, is it in their best interest to have them maybe experiment with other clubs chipping, and if so, why?
Well, when it comes to chipping, I'm going to talk about my mentor, Phil Rogers, who was probably one of the greatest chippers to ever play on the PGA Tour. And Phil was very adamant about teaching students, and this is something I believe myself, to use different clubs. Because his philosophy was, I have a better chance to teach the average person one swing than I do 25 swings. Because there's a million different shots that you can get around the green. You can't possibly, in the one day, practice every shot that you would get on a golf course in a 9-hole round of golf. So it's very important to understand, just like you do in the full swing. If you think about it, in the full swing, if you have a 100-yard shot, you might use your pitching wedge. If you have a 110-yard shot or a 115-yard shot, you might use your 9-iron, and then your 8-iron, and then your 7-iron. You change clubs all the time. You don't change your swing. You might adjust your setup a little bit, but you don't change your swing. You basically have a swing grooved in, and then you take the club that's appropriate. Once the student understands, and they do have to understand how to use the different lofts. For example, I don't want them chipping with a 6-iron when the pin is only 10 feet away. But I also don't want them chipping with a pitching wedge when the pin is 50 feet away. So you have to explain, and there's a little bit of understanding that has to be done, and that's my job as a teacher. And I think John would agree with this. But once they understand how to use different lofts, then it's just practice. And they have a built-in swing. So in the example I just gave you, if I have a pin that's 10 feet away or a pin that's 50 feet away, I don't change my swing. I change my club. If you're a person, and I've had this discussion with top 100 teachers who say, oh, no, John, that's way too difficult. You only teach people to use one club. Well, then I said, well, if they use one club, when they hit the 10-yard shot or the 10, they've got to have a swing. And when they go to the 50-foot shot, they've got to have a different swing. They can't possibly have the same swing because one swing is making the ball go 10 feet and the other swing is making the ball go 50 feet. So they have to change their swing. I would much rather teach someone to change a club because anyone can change a club. I can teach someone how to chip with a 6-iron through a pitching wedge in one lesson. I cannot teach them 5 different golf swings in one lesson. It's impossible. So I'm a big believer in changing clubs. It requires practice, just like anything would, and it requires a little bit of understanding. But once you understand, you're simply taking a lofted club and making a putting style motion. That's all you're doing. You're putting with a lofted club. And once you learn to get the ball on the green and let the ball do the work and not you, you're going to find that the game is a lot easier.
That's a really great point. I think back years ago, John, thank you for that, by the way, when I remember the first time I watched Jack Nicklaus's video series, Golf My Way, and I remember him talking about that very same thing. Of course, he was referring to the full swing. And, in his video series, he talked about how he had one swing, but 14 different clubs. Obviously, his putter was not used the same way, but all of his other clubs, whether it was his driver, whether it was his wedges or his medium or long irons, he had one swing. And it was a matter of allowing the loft to do the work, whether he needed to go a shorter distance or a longer distance. Now, obviously, chipping and other certain specialty shots are going to require something a little bit different. He subscribed to the same theory that instead of trying to have 14 different swings, he had one swing and 14 different clubs. And I agree with your analogy as well. I think that sometimes if you're trying to do things necessarily with one club, I mean, you have 14 clubs in the bag. How many times have we seen over the years, maybe not as much now, but some of the top players that will putt with their fairway wood. A lot of them use hybrids now to even chip with. So, they've learned to utilize what's in their bag, and I think that was some sound advice. Mr. Hughes, we're going to talk about, everybody gets excited about going long and hitting their driver off the tee and putting themselves in position. But there's one area that a lot of amateurs, I don't think, really understand. I'd like for you to maybe explain a little bit about their driver, especially about their driver selection. There's so many models out there, so many manufacturers out there, but one thing that the pros differ in from the amateurs is they understand what role the shaft plays and how important it is to have the right shaft in your club. So talk about it from that standpoint. If you want to get the most out of your driver and you want it to, be successful with your tee shots, that's an area you cannot overlook. And having the right shaft or the wrong shaft can make a difference in your driver performance. Maybe if you could touch a little bit on that.
Sure. I've been fitting clubs since 1996. I was taught by a lot of the originators of the Brunswick rifle shaft, which we now know is a true temper product, through Slazenger, which was based in Greenville, South Carolina, as far as the U.S. headquarters. I was lucky enough that the CEO was a member of the club where I was and got a really good understanding of fitting in the week-long fitting lessons they gave me. I'm certified with a lot of different companies, most recently Callaway, which I'm a staff member of. So I want to be transparent and put that out there so the listeners can understand that Am I partial to one club manufacturer at this point? Yes. But I would tell you from dating back 24, almost 25 years ago, one thing's remained consistent, and that is the shaft. And I can sum it up in one phrase. You want to have the most flexible shaft in your hand that you can control the ball flight with. What do I mean by that? I'll give you a great example. I had a coworker in Hilton Head at the IJGA who was 6'6", could swing the club 105 miles an hour plus, and he played with a regular shaft. Whereas everybody was trying to get him to play with a stiff or an extra stiff. At the end of the day, his name was Don. Don told us point blank he would literally get belligerent with us sometimes because we were that adamant with him. You need to go to a stiffer shaft. And he says, look, fellas, this regular shaft with just a half inch more and the grip built up is all I need, and it's all I can handle. This is what I can control. And he was very accurate. He rarely missed a fairway, and he was about 5-6 years older than me, and he would bomb it by me, partially because of his leverage part was I'm playing an extra stiff shaft, which was releasing the energy much earlier than hitting the ball. Don's was releasing the energy through the ball, and that's really key when it comes to shafts. So being males, sometimes they'll get the testosterone and the ego in the way, and they want to swing a heavier shaft. Heavier meaning stiff or extra stiff. I think there's been a lot of progress in the 25 years I've been fitting to be able to quantitatively and objectively measure what is the best shaft for you, and whether it's Club Champion, or which I'm partial to, I'm one of their ambassadors, or their other competitors, you're going to get fit by a Callaway professional or a TaylorMade professional or a Titleist professional. We're all trying to find the shaft that fits you best right off the get-go, because that is the engine to all golf clubs, is that shaft. In particular with the driver, it's extra long. It's 45 inches long as it's standardized now by most of the manufacturers. That's a very long shaft for a lot of amateurs to be able to control. If it's too heavy, you're going to release it early. If it's too whippy, you're going to have a very hard time trying to hold correct lag angle to make that release through the ball. So when you're in the market for a driver, I highly suggest going to a certified fitter that has the equipment and check your ego at the door, man. If you need the regular shaft and that's the one you can't control, and you're getting maximum not only distance but accuracy out of it, it's quite all right. It's okay. Take some nail polish and paint over the R if you have to. But that is the most important part of what your driver's supposed to be doing for you.
That is an excellent point, John, because so many amateurs, when they're looking at getting some new equipment, whether it be their irons or particularly their driver, too often, again, they get caught up in the numbers. And as you pointed out, it's really about what you can control. And, if you're a strong player and maybe a tall player and you can generate a lot of club head speed, that stiff, or even in some cases, very rare, an extra stiff shaft might be appropriate. But the truth of the matter is most people, I think, out there, particularly amateurs, can easily play and probably handle a regular shaft. And this is an area that I think a lot of times overlooked. Too many people go out, they'll buy a set of golf clubs, and they'll sort of leave it as is, whatever's sort of coming off the rack, and maybe making a few adjustments, but they forget quite often, particularly with the driver, the shaft. And a lot of times they're misfitted. They're not fit properly for their game, and they're wondering why, as you pointed out, their shots are going all over the place. It's not necessarily that they're not swinging the club properly. A lot of times the equipment they're using may not be properly fitted for them. So that's a great point. On the other end of the spectrum, Mr. Decker, is the grip. We've talked about, many times about how to hold the club, but we don't really talk a lot about the actual grip itself. There's, again, much like the shafts, there's a lot of products out there. What should people be looking for when it comes to the grip end of the club?
Well, the first thing that most students need to do is they need to change their grips. I recommend once a year, at least once every couple of years. A lot of it's really going to depend on how much you play. Try not to store your golf clubs in your car, in the trunk. You'll get much more life out of your grips, and there's nothing wrong with washing your grips as well. So making sure. I had a student today, I was giving a lesson, and I picked up his wedge, and I literally thought if I swing this, I could literally let go of it because it had to have been 10 years old, and it was not anywhere. It would be almost impossible to have a really good golf grip, because if your grips are worn out, you're going to squeeze the club tighter, especially in the summer months, as your hands perspire. Or if they're a little bit wet, and if it's raining or if there's moisture out there, you're really going to struggle with that. So it's very important that your grips be up to date and new. And then as far as grip size and grip, as far as what grip you go with, whether you go with like something with a half cord or if you go with something that's built up, it's going to depend on your hand size. You obviously want to hold the club in the fingers. This is where you need to go to your local PGA golf professional, and you need to talk to him or her, and actually talk about, what size grip is going to be best for you based on your hand size. Because if you have a grip that's too small for you, or if you have a grip that's too large for you, it's going to definitely affect your ability to create club head speed and also to be able to control your shots. Because if your grip is too small, you're going to tend to really, really have trouble, with the club face possibly getting too closed or too open because you're having to put so much of your hand on the club to hold it. A grip that's too large is definitely going to keep you from allowing you to release the club. You're going to lose power. You're going to tend to hit the ball to the right and have trouble getting the ball in the air. So grip size is important, and that's something, again, that, that's going to vary for every person depending on their hand size. But the basic thing that I always believe in is I like to go with a grip that feels good in my hands, and there's different grips out there, so it's important that you get that. The Tour Velvet has always been one of my favorites. I love the feel of that, but it requires me, several times a year to take some hot soap and water or brush and clean them off, just like you clean off your club heads. If you do that, you'll get much more life out of them, and it's something that's really overlooked by most golfers.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring it up tonight. These are areas, they seem very simple to us because, we're familiar with the process. We deal with it on a regular basis, and we understand when it comes to our own game certain things that we need to take care of in order to get the best, out of the equipment and so forth. But a lot of amateurs really fall short, both on selecting the right shaft, as John Hughes mentioned, and as you just wrapped up about the grip itself. We often talk about some other areas of the game, like the fundamentals, and we talk about holding the club correctly. But if we're not using the right equipment or it's mismatched for our game, that a lot of times can lead to a lot of the difficulties and challenges that we may have. And ultimately, what typically ends up happening with most amateur golfers is they think it's them and they start making adjustments. And the next time they come to the lesson tee, all of a sudden they're doing all kinds of funky things when really it could be an equipment issue. So it's as both have pointed out, folks, it's really important to go to your local professional, whether it's PGA or LPGA, and meet with them and have them take a look at the equipment you're currently using. Find out whether or not the shafts that you're using is appropriate for your game. And as mentioned, John, about getting your grips, if you're someone that only plays a couple of times a year, certainly you don't have to necessarily change them out as often. But if you're having difficulty holding on because they're slick, it might be time to put some new ones on there. Great answer. Mr. Hughes, I'm going to give you the last one here, and then we'll wrap up. This one's sort of a combination talking about playing the course for a lot of beginners. Obviously, we want to get them out there on the golf course. And when you're in trouble, what are some options? A lot of times, we watch Sunday afternoons on the tour, and we see a lot of professionals getting into trouble, and we try to emulate what they're doing. But when you're a beginner and you don't have the same skill set, there might be some options. Problems can be certainly solved with patience and thoughtfulness, but a new golfer sometimes gets caught up in trying to, play the hero shot, if you will. So maybe give us an example. When you're out there playing the course, how should a beginner approach playing as opposed to a professional? And when they do find themselves what they're certainly going to do, give maybe some suggestions on what a smarter play might be, and give an example if you'd like.
Sure. The biggest thing for a beginner is to understand what I call a personal par. And personal par takes into effect not only the length of a hole, the difficulty of a hole, but the transgressions that you experience as you play that hole. Transgressions being, did you plop it in the water? Did you hit it out of bounds? Did you incur another penalty? And simply because the golf course is par 72 doesn't necessarily mean that's your par. Combine that with trying to make decisions that keep par in play. I coined that phrase many years ago from a strategic standpoint of view. I call it a decision-making factor. Can you make smarter decisions with your current skill set, with the armory of weapons that you own right now? As you said, when you're watching the professionals on TV, their arsenal of weapons is massive compared to what a beginner has. If a beginner can put a club on a ball and get the ball back in play, 9 times out of 10, that's going to result in a lower score versus trying to hit what you call the hero shot. And you've got to take it on a risk-reward. A conservative aggression approach is a term I use. Can you make a conservative decision within your arsenal of shots that you have? Meaning, let's play a shot you know you can hit, but let's be aggressive playing it. A lot of times I'll see the aggressive decision being made and then trying to play the shot conservatively, and that almost always leads to higher scores because you're self-doubting in the middle of your swing whether you can pull that shot off or not. So the combination of all these things that I've said, basically, hey, what is your personal par? If on a par 5 your best score is 6, then you should be keeping 6 in your mind as you make decisions. Always keep par in play when you're in trouble. When you're in trouble, understand what you can and can't do. Let's make a conservative decision based on what you can do so you can feel comfortable enough to be aggressive with that play. Most of the time, this is going to lead to lower scores with your current skill set. I believe it's something that you can instantly improve your game with, just being able to understand what your ability is and how to make great decisions off your current ability versus something aggressive that you may pull off 1 in 100 shots. Yes, that 1 in 100 is what you may come back for, but it's the other 99, which is why you see John and I on a regular basis. We're trying to help you make smarter decisions with current skill sets, first and foremost. Because if you can do that, you're going to have a lot more fun playing golf. You're going to be more inquisitive as to how to add more shots to your arsenal.
Well said. Well, John and John, I want to thank both of you for doing a great job on the Coach's Corner panel. As always, you managed to bring your best to the discussions, and I want to give each of you an opportunity. We'll go in the same order. Mr. Decker, you can start first. If those tuning into the program want to reach out and get in touch with you, some ways that they can do that, and then Mr. Hughes.
Well, Ted, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. And, John, I've really enjoyed, as always, I always learn something when I'm on the show with you, and I really enjoyed it being on with you tonight. For the listeners out there, if you want to reach me through social media, I go by, I'm listed under as John Decker Golf Instruction, and my first name is spelled Jon. So John Decker Golf Instruction. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I also am now a senior editor with Golf Tips Magazine, as is John and yourself, Ted. And so I've got instructional articles in that as well, in a new series called Fairways to Heaven. So hopefully the listeners out there will subscribe to the magazine and keep up with all of us through the magazine. I've got my book, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game. You can purchase that on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.com websites. And I'm available for speaking engagements, or I also have a Bible study with the book. So if you're interested in having me come speak churches or golf clinics or anything, or doing instructional clinics, reach out to me on social media, and I'll be glad to come to your area. And once again, thank you.
All right, appreciate it, John. And Mr. Hughes, how about yourself?
Well, again, thanks, Ted, for the opportunity. Always a pleasure being part of the show. John Decker, same compliment to you, especially with the Phil Rogers mention. I didn't realize I was a Phil Rogers disciple until tonight. I appreciate that. People can reach me very simply, www.johnhughesgolf.com. And you can take that same moniker and apply it to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, or YouTube. You just type it in, and you're going to find me there. Very easy to get a hold of me. If you contact me before 5 o'clock any day of the year, you're guaranteed a reply back. I'm looking forward to the future, not only with the magazine. It sounds like I got a promotion tonight, the senior editor. Thanks, Ted, for that. Appreciate that. And you can see my articles in Golf Tips. I try to make them as generic as I can to the various milestones we're all trying to break. And I'm also looking forward to getting some video out here shortly, not only for the magazine, but for a personal project that I'll probably be announcing early fall. But again, thanks, Ted, for the opportunity. Always a pleasure.
Well, guys, thank you for all that you do, not only helping the golfers out there learn this game and get out and have some fun, but thank you for your contributions to the magazine. As you both mentioned, you're both on the editing staff, but also providing some great tips in here. John Decker's got some tips in here, as well as his series, Fairways to Heaven. And as John Hughes just mentioned, we've been running here again this season his golf milestones for 2020, and part 4 of that series is going to be hitting the newsstands with the latest issue of Golf Tips, with, of course, legendary Jack Nicklaus on the cover. Great cover story in there as well. That'll be hitting newsstands August the 4th, so you want to make sure subscribers, of course, will be already receiving their issues, or certainly will be shortly. But in just a little over a week's time, or about a week's time, it will be hitting the newsstands on sale and available at many, many newsstands, both here in the United States and Canada, as well as available for subscribers overseas. But Barnes & Noble and Books A Million are some of the larger places, as well as in Publix and some of the other areas as well. So check your local Barnes & Noble or Books A Million, or even your local grocery store in their magazine section for a copy of Golf Tips. Or better yet, for just $14.97, if you go to golftipsmag.com, which is, of course, the website, you can subscribe there. But thank you guys for your contributions. I look forward to reading some more great articles, as I know the listeners will. Thank you for your contributions to the magazine, and thank you to your contributions here to Coach's Corner on Golf Talk Live. Have a great rest of the week and the weekend, and I look forward to you joining me here again on a future panel.
Thanks,
Thank
Ted.
you, Ted.
Enjoy the evening.
All right, thanks, guys. All right, that was John Hughes and John Decker, as mentioned, the two Johns joining me on the Coach's Corner panel here on Golf Talk Live. And we've got a few minutes here left before my very special guest of the evening, Don Helinski, Director of Operations at Forest Dunes Golf Club, will be joining me. And when I see him coming on board, I will do a quick introduction, and we'll get into this evening's discussion with him about some of the great things happening up at Forest Dunes. Again, for those of you that are maybe just tuning in a little bit later, I now publish and edit Golf Tips magazine as of March of this year. This is my second issue since I've taken over the magazine. The first one came out a little over a month. It's a bi-monthly magazine. 6 issues come out in the season. I took over in March. The first one was the July-August issue that came out. And now the September-October issue is going to be hitting newsstands on August 4th, and you'll recognize it because it's got, of course, my favorite player of all time, Jack Nicklaus, on the cover, plus some other great articles inside from a number of very highly talented professionals, both teaching and other parts of the game, so make sure you check that out as well. Again, if you go to golftipsmag.com, you could subscribe today directly online. And it's a great magazine, and we're working very steadily, if you will, on getting out the November-December issue, which will be coming out in a little while. And also there'll be a special edition issue, which will feature some equipment reviews and a hot list to get you ready for 2021, as well as some great gift ideas for the holidays. And that'll be coming out. That special edition issue is coming out this year as a result of cancellation of the May-June issue. So it's to make up for that extra issue. The May-June issue, as I mentioned on a previous show, was canceled basically due to the current pandemic and with just the circumstances with the change of ownership. So look for that at newsstands on August 4th, Golf Tips magazine. That'll be hitting newsstands all across America and Canada. And again, go to golftipsmag.com if you want to subscribe to the magazine. $14.97 is the subscription price for 1 year. That gets you 6 issues, so it's a good deal. All right, I want to introduce my very special guest this evening, Mr. Don Helinski. He is the Director of Operations at Forest Dunes Golf Club. Don joined the Forest Dunes team in 2010 as Communications Manager and has seen the property grow from offering only the original acclaimed Forest Dunes course to a 54-hole golf destination with the innovative Tom Doak design. We're also going to talk to him about the Loop, which is a very interesting concept, if you will. And they're a 2-acre hilltop putting course. And in just a few days, on August 2nd, Forest Dunes will proudly open its new 10-hole short course. So we'll talk to him about that and more. So please welcome to the show my very special guest, Mr. Don Helinski. Good evening, Don, and welcome to Golf Talk Live.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on the show and talk about all the great things about golf in northern Michigan.
Well, it's a pleasure, and I know that you guys are excited with all that's going on, and we're going to talk about some of those new things. Let's go back a little bit, and I want to talk about you for a second here. I like to ask, especially if guests have never been on the show before, a little bit about how they got into golf, what brought them to the game, what attracted them to the game, and how they first started out playing, obviously, whether it was as a youngster or a little bit later on in life. So just give us a little backstory of how you came into the game of golf.
Sure. Well, I was a pretty small guy growing up and always was an athlete and wanted to play football. So I played football in 7th and 8th grade, but the smallest pads that the school had were still too big for me. So I played 7th and 8th grade and didn't really care for it and was pretty small, like I said. And school didn't have cross-country team, so I went out for golf instead and kind of played golf. My dad was a mild golfer, and his father was a pretty active golfer, although he died early in my life, so I didn't really know him, but heard of all the golf tales from him. So kind of picked up the game in high school and just was, kind of mildly into it throughout my 4 years of high school, and actually spent the beginning of my professional career, the first 15 years in athletic media relations for Central Michigan University. And my family moved about an hour north when my wife and I had kids, and Forest Dunes was a place that I kind of landed and was doing some work for in a fashion, working in the golf shop in the bag drop. And I said, hey, I can do this, I can do that, and kind of morphed into many different things since then. So.
Well, it sounds like you had a very similar experience that so many do have. Is once you get bitten by the golf bug, it's not something that you can get away from very easily, and it becomes a game for life, whether you play professionally on a tour or whether you partake in one of the many different business opportunities within the golf industry. So let's talk about Forest Dunes. Let me just sort of paint the picture a little bit for the listeners, for those that have never been there before, and maybe even more so for those that have not visited North Michigan. North Michigan is probably one of the most beautiful areas, in my opinion, in the country. It's just so many trees, and obviously Forest Dunes is nestled within the Huron National Forest, and it's just considered to be one of the country's premier golf experiences. Talk about what experience somebody that comes to Forest Dunes, before we get into the actual playing, when they're driving up the driveway, what are they going to see?
Well, we are in the absolute middle of nowhere, and that is something we take pride in. The cell phone service has gotten a lot better. That was a lot of people's complaints a few years ago, but we tried convincing them, isn't that a blessing in a way? This is your chance to unplug, to escape. We are a pure golf destination. We don't have a pool or a spa or anything like that. It is high-quality golf and enjoying it with the fellowship of those people that you're on your trip with. And as you said, we're surrounded by the Huron National Forest and Manistee State Forest. 75% of the county we are located in is state and federal land, public land, forest land, and so not a big population base. Most of the area is known for tourism related to the Asable River and the Manistee River, which are two blue ribbon fly fishing destinations, and we're well off the beaten path. We don't get any drive-by traffic to our restaurant. Our gatehouse is about 2 miles off of the nearest state road, and that state road is basically just a link between two other side state roads, and so it's in the middle of nowhere, bordered by protected native small jack pines that protect an endangered bird, the Kirtland's warbler. And a lot of people think that we had a forest fire go through the area, but what it is it's clear cut. They clear cut different parcels throughout the county, and the Kirtland warbler is a bird that winters in the Bahamas and flies up to our neck of the woods in northern Michigan to nest. And it's on the endangered species list, close to coming off, and it nests in in very young jack pine, so they have to clear cut an area, let it grow to that nesting height, and so that's kind of what borders the drive on the way in. But a lot of tall jack pines and national forest is what you're going to see when you're coming in.
And talk about originally the design with Tom Weiskopf, obviously a prominent PGA player for many, many years. he's had a hand here originally with Forest Dunes, correct?
Correct. He designed the original course. The piece of property and the original goal of the developers in the late 90s is rather interesting. We kind of talked for a brief second about the great beauty of northern Michigan, and we are saturated with a lot of high-quality golf courses in the northern part of the state. We're on the 45th parallel, which is halfway between the North Pole and the equator, and that extends our daylight. When in May and early June, throughout June, we'll be light well after 10 o'clock at night, and there's a lot of resorts that you've probably heard of in addition to ourselves, the likes of Treetops and Boyne and Shanty Creek and Garland and Crystal Mountain and a lot of these multi-course resorts. Well, Treetops and Garland were kind of the first two and had the big name in the 80s, and then a lot of these other ones fell into line. Well, a developer had a goal for a private gated community in Roscommon, Michigan, which, like I said, is in the absolute middle of nowhere. The land that our property is on was once owned by William Durant, the founder of General Motors, and then it was also owned by the Purple Gang, which is a famous Detroit mafia family, and this was kind of their escape. It was called the South Branch Ranch. We're in South Branch Township, and the South Branch is the branch of the AuSable that runs closest to the course. And they actually searched for Jimmy Hoffa out here, so it kind of had a unique history. And the original developer had a goal of a private gated community, 2 championship courses, equestrian center, swimming pools, and like I said, we're in the middle of nowhere. So between infrastructure and some things that people who might be looking for that type of residence for a second or third residence, probably not enough there to support it, and then the oversaturation of residential golf developments in northern Michigan probably wasn't the right time, and the original developer never got the property off the ground, even though construction had started on the course. The Michigan Carpenters Union Pension Fund took over the course and actually got the course opened, completed. In fact, when it was first completed, it sat dormant for about half of the summer until they were able to actually get it open. They were the property was managed by a couple different golf management companies, the last being Troon, and they were still trying to sell these 500 real estate lots and also develop this private membership that never really happened, and the club was losing quite a bit of money. And even though we had a nationally ranked public golf course when Forest Dunes opened in 2002. It was named best upscale course in the country by Golf Digest, and where the Forest Dunes course is currently ranked 28 among public courses by Golf Digest in America, and has been perennial. Ever since it's opened, we've been in that top 28. So, we had a place, but we didn't really make a big jump until a private individual bought the property in 2011, and that was Mr. Lou Thompson.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We'll talk about what he, I guess, his vision in a moment. But I wanted to. I've been dying to ask this. I found it a really interesting concept, and this is another part of Forest Dunes that has become very, very popular, and that's referred to, as I mentioned earlier, the Loop, which is a Tom Doak layout. Explain what the Loop is for those that aren't familiar with the property.
Well, the Loop is a authentic Heathland-style golf course. It is 18 greens and fairways. but it plays as two totally different golf courses. So it's a reversible golf course. And some people may not realize that St. Andrews was a reversible golf course as well, and played that way regularly in its early years. And basically one of the iconic par threes was on the same hole, or the same side as the road hole, and people wanted to say they hit it over the hotel on the road hole and play that direction of the par three. So that popularity-wise is what stuck as the main routing. So sometimes when you watch the Open Championship on television, you'll see some bunkers that you're like, that doesn't really make sense. Why is that bunker there? Well, it's because that's primarily in play for the opposite routing. And but so basically, we have two different routings of the loop. We call them the red and the black. Golfers play one direction on a given day. So even calendar days, we play the red routing. Odd calendar days, everybody plays the black routing. So red goes in a counterclockwise motion, and black is clockwise. And it plays as two totally different golf courses. In fact, Golf Digest has the Loop Black ranked number 45 and the Loop Red number 47 among public golf courses in America's greatest list. And you know, it's baffling to me that this concept hasn't really been replicated on a full 18-hole scale since St. Andrews. And Tom Doak was the architect behind it, and he had pitched it to several developers. He had been wanting to do it and had pages and pages in his notebook of different ideas related to it. And it took a special piece of property and an owner who was willing to take the chance. And the other thing that probably helped out quite a bit is the fact that he resides in Traverse City, Michigan, which is about 60 miles from here. So he was on site and on property for this and had a vested interest. It's the closest he had worked to home in a number of years. And, you know, he really wanted to pull this off, and the loop opened to rave reviews and was named best new public course in the country by both Golf Magazine and Golf Digest. And you know, it's just a very unique design and a very authentic Heathland style, you know, link style. Technically is on the water, so Heathland is that void of trees and relatively flat style of play. It's a fescue grass, very fast and firm, more brown than green, especially nowadays with some of the 90-degree consecutive days that we've had here in the last 2 weeks or so. It's browned out quite a bit, and it's a different style of play.
Right.
Some people love it, and some don't care for it, and we're expecting another Forest Dunes.
What's really unique about this, the Loop Dawn, that really kind of intrigued me, excuse me, is typically with most golf courses, if they want the golfer to have a different experience, it usually involves moving the tees or playing from a different tee box. They're very limited in what they can do. What's unique about this is you've taken 18 holes and basically have created, or rather Tom has, a completely different experience playing 18 holes from a different perspective. And I think that's what makes it, and I'm sure that's why it opened to rave reviews, is it is a concept that is not very widely seen, certainly here in America. And I think it was obviously very of great vision by Tom to do that. And you know, you're not taking up any additional land because you already had the 18 holes there, but you've, you know, manipulated it in such a way to be able to provide the players a completely different experience, a la the red one day and black another day. And it just really attests to really what can be done with the property that's different and uniquely different. And obviously, I know you guys are very proud of that addition to Forest Dunes.
Yes, and I know the one thing for all the listeners out there are probably having a hard time conceptualizing this in their head using their imagination right now. And it is a lot easier to demonstrate and explain visually. But one of the things that helps you to understand this concept is you kind of have to throw out the modern ideas of a golf course with defined tee boxes and rough and fairway and green. There is no rough on this course. It is all one fairway cut. So what is a tee area one day, which is basically just a flat spot, because what's the tee area one day is part of the fairway the next day when it's coming back in the other direction. So we have some people saying, they're driving on the tee boxes. Well, yeah, that's fine. They're driving on the fairway coming back the other way, So that's the one thing that I think people, are picturing these laser line square tee boxes that are maybe a little bit elevated and things like that. It is just a flat spot of the tee area, again, in true throwback fashion. In the early years, there wasn't a tee box. Whoever won the hole got to pick where you dropped your ball and went to the next green. And so there's when we originally opened the course, it was walking only, and we had hoped to maintain that. However, the economics and the business have dictated otherwise, that we needed carts, that there weren't enough people that were willing to walk it, and and then the other thing you have to realize is that it's each fairway matches up with a different green. If you think about your approach shot, that's the main key shot in golf is the approach shot into the green. So each of your approach shots are different from the same spot in the fairway. So you are going at the green from 150 yards out the one day. If you are in that same spot, you turn yourself around and are heading 150 yards into the other green, it's a totally different shot. The green that you just played, when you play it in the other direction, the bunkers are going to be in different locations. The slope of the green is going to be to another different direction. So that whole backdrop totally changes. And the really unique thing is the greens are not the same par even from the different directions. So, for example, the red number 6 is a short par 3, and it's a 100-yard shot, and it's a little bit of a carry over some scruffy native grass into a very wide and shallow green. The next day, that same green, when you play it, you're approaching it from about 130-degree angle difference, and number 12 black is a par 4 dogleg right, and your approach shot from the corner is not into a shallow wide green, it's into a long skinny green, because you're looking at it from a totally different direction. So, the greens themselves, it's not that it was a par 4 coming this way and it's a par 4 coming from the other way as well. They're all different, and it's very unique. And again, it's something that is very hard to conceptualize in your head without seeing either some video or a diagram to help explain it. But it is two totally different courses. The difference of approach into the greens is anywhere from 180 degrees, so in the total opposite direction, or the closest one is probably about 30 degrees on number 9 and 10 going each direction. That's only about a 30-degree difference. That's the slimmest angle that there is. So, but again, it's just mind-blowing and something that you really have to experience. And in order to appreciate the true genius of the design, you really need to play it both ways. And most people want to play it multiple times each way because they finally either get used to the style of it or finally get used to the different angles and approach. It's a very fun course to play. It's pretty short. Par is 70, and the defense of the course is around the greens, and there's a lot of creative shot making that goes in, a lot of mounding. There's no trouble. There's no water on the course at all, and very little trees in play. It's very wide open, so it's a lot of fun for beginners and players of all ability levels.
It sounds like an incredible experience. And, as I mentioned earlier, typically with a lot of the golf courses, once the general lay of the land is done, really they're very limited in what they can do. And again, it's either moving tee boxes or moving the actual tees within the structure to make it play a little bit differently. I really like this design. I find it very, very interesting, the loop, and again, its uniqueness helps to make, in addition to already a great Weiskopf course, helps to make Forest Dunes stand out. Talk to us about the hilltop portion of Forest Dunes. Explain what that's about.
Sure, it's a 2-acre putting course, 18 holes that we have laid out, similar to the Punch Bowl for people who are familiar with Bandon, and it's just a great place to go out on an evening. It's complimentary, part of your stay with us, or if you're just stopping in for dinner. We have people who on a date night stop in for dinner and head out and we'll putt around the hilltop, and it's great for gambling games. It's pretty undulating terrain. It is located right next to the new short course that's coming online here next weekend, and right in between the practice facility and that short course right next to the clubhouse. So, but the hilltop was originally part of the original Forest Dunes development when it opened, and it wasn't getting any play at all. The original idea was this private gated community, and that all these grandparents would be living there and able to bring their grandchildren out and introduce them to the game and play with them on this putting course. And back in those days, the early 2000s, we were only getting about 4,000 rounds a year. So the amount of play on that was very costly for the maintenance that was required to maintain basically a 2-acre green. So it was let go, and once we developed the loop and had all this additional lodging and had all these folks that are on site on property with pretty much nothing else to do, and kind of the emergence of all these destinations having something similar, our owner Lou Thompson decided, hey, we should bring back that putting course with the location it's in, and giving something for people to do, like I said, a pure golf destination. I mean, we are literally 20 minutes from the nearest town. There's no casinos or no nightlife to speak of. So when we have people here on property, I don't want to say they're trapped, but really there isn't anywhere for them to go locally. And so having an amenity like this hilltop putting course is something that's a lot of fun, and you'll see these groups up there with large numbers of 18 to 30 guys, and they're playing different games, whether it be an alternate shot contest or just low score contest, and different things like that. So it was kind of the predecessor to the short course, and something that we already had on property, and it's very popular with our groups and different events such as our member guests and things like that.
Well, and it's a great way, as you said, obviously, if you're out playing during the day and you're playing 18 and you're looking for to have an entertaining moment, I mean, again, you can get your group together or other guests that are staying at Forest Dunes involved and make some games out of it. And what better way to work on your short game than on a putting course like that? Which brings me to, I know, something that you guys are very, very excited about opening up here at the beginning of August is going to be your new 10-hole, just a little over 1,100-yard short course. Talk a little bit about the two gentlemen that were involved in the designing of that, and a little bit, as I mentioned earlier, the Forest Dunes owner, Lou Thompson, wanted something that was going to be fun and playable for not only his grandkids, of course, but particularly beginning golfers. So talk a little bit about the gentleman behind this new course design, and a little bit about what you're hoping to get with the short course.
Sure. Well, a lot of the destination courses nowadays are adding these short courses to their inventory of offerings for different amenities. And our owner, Lou Thompson, went to Pinehurst, and he played the Cradle there, and he fell in love with it. And it's probably on record as the most expensive trip to Pinehurst that anybody's ever had, because he said, I have to have one of these, and wanted to build one when he got back. And so his trip to Pinehurst cost him the price of a new 10-hole course. And one of the main reasons that he wanted it is he has two young grandsons, 13 and 9, and they are absolutely in love with the game of golf, and they run him ragged when he brings them up, and they want to play 36 holes a day, and he just doesn't have the energy for that anymore with his age. And also, when they would play, Forest Dunes is unique in that it has a set of junior tees. We have 5 tee boxes on Forest Dunes, and the number 5 tees are all about at 150 yards. It basically turns everything into a par 3. Well, when he would play the Forest Dunes course with them, they didn't feel they were playing the real course because they went all the way up to the 5 tees. So he was looking for something that we have this a very unique outdoor pavilion bar area. It's a covered building with wood-burning fireplace, 3 wood-burning fireplaces, and an outdoor bar, and it is right off our patio. And this is where that short course that opens next weekend starts and ends, is right there at that patio. It's kind of the social hub of the activity at night for all our guests who are staying on property. And, he kind of wanted something where after playing a little bit with the grandkids, he could go sit down at the pavilion and just say, Jason Jagger, you guys go out there, play the short course, and he can watch most of it from sitting right there and not worrying about them getting in trouble and wrecking a cart or putting it in the water or anything like that. So, we were looking for different designers, and Lou is very good friends with Matt Janella, formerly of the Golf Channel, who's one of the golf travel leading experts around the country. And his home course down in Winter Park, Florida, was recently redone. It's a municipal course, 9 holes, that has been rebranded as the Winter Park 9. And Keith Rebb and Riley Johns are the two gentlemen that were the architects behind that renovation, which has led to a great renaissance of that property. And they were who we tabbed as the architects for this project. And, one of the big reasons was, we didn't necessarily need a name architect for a short course. I mean, nobody is going to come because Coeur Crenshaw or Doak or one of the Hans, one of the big names in golf architecture built the short course. They're coming to play the championship courses of those types of designers. But you could get away with having kind of an up-and-coming golf design team do this type of project and have it be very successful and meet your needs. And in everything, everything with this project was very kind of spur of the moment. In last year, in April, we didn't even have a shovel in the ground. The call went out to those two gentlemen, and Lou really wanted it to be able to open for play this year. So a year later, they were able to, from the first day on property to leaving the property after the grass was seeded, it only took 81 days for this project to be completed and the architect team off property. So they just happened to be available. Their background is they are shapers for some of the big names in the industry. For those of you that are familiar with golf course building and architecture, the shapers travel from project to project and work with all the different designers, and different designers may have ones that they typically work with, but it's just what project do you have going on now and who has work and availability, and so Keith Rebb has spent close to 20 years working with Coeur Crenshaw. And then Riley Johns has worked with Coeur Crenshaw as well, and that's in fact where he met, where they teamed up, Keith and Riley. And Riley was actually interning with Tom Doak in the early stages of the Loop, and Riley was part of the advanced scout team that was on site looking at different routing possibilities when the Loop was just in its design infancy. So those were the two that were tabbed for this project, and everything about the short course movement in golf is kind of throwing out the old guard standards of golf. We're calling it a short course versus a par 3 course because we don't think the emphasis is on measuring yourself against a standard like par. The whole goal of this course is to go out and have a good time with your friends. Not saying that there's not competition involved, but it's not necessarily, hey, this is par. It's par is 30 because we have 10 holes and it's a par 3 course. So you should, the average person should score a 30. No, we're throwing all that out. We're allowing people to play in up to 8-somes. I expect people to be playing music and being barefoot and carrying 2 or 3 clubs and a couple bottles of beer and a very relaxed type atmosphere. It is a very compact footprint, and I almost relate it in a way to mini golf, and that the holes are you're literally right next to each other. It's about a 10-acre piece of the property that the short course is on. Our practice facility may even be bigger than the footprint of the short course, and it's got some very cool undulating terrain. And a lot of people ask us, well, why 10 holes? And kind of like the response to throwing out the standards of golf. Well, who says the course needs to be 9 holes or 18 holes? We gave Keith and Riley a piece of land and said, we need a course to fit within these boundaries, and they said, well, we can fit 10 good holes in there, and we said, hey, that's great, build them. And that's how it's come to be. We don't have a name for the course yet, so we've just been calling it the short course. We've been struggling to have something that really jumps out to us that has meaning for this, but the holes range between 50 and 150 yards, and have a lot of creative shot making with them. It's a fescue fairways, a lot of mounding, particularly around the greens. So there's going to be a lot of unique shot making opportunities of banking it off the sides, and it may not be uncommon for people to use putter off the tee on a couple of holes, whether that's by design, by a game they're playing, or just the shot selection. And on hole number 6 is one that's going to come to mind that people may want to use putter. It's a downhill, and with that fast firm, once everything grows in and gets nice and brown and fast like we like, people are going to be able to putt down this hill and kind of run it down the serpent's back and see where it goes. But like I said, the whole concept behind this course is another amenity for our guests that's golf related, that's having fun, doing competitions, not necessarily keeping a score, but whether it be a skins game or closest to the pin or other different games that people invent. And the unique thing is this, the first tee for this is just 20 yards from our pavilion, and the 10th hole is about 40 yards from the pavilion. So there's going to be a gallery for the first tee and the 10th tee, and the other unique thing about this course is number 1 and number 10 are crossover holes. So the fairways actually kind of form an X, and but it is right next to our clubhouse and the pavilion, and it's seen. The first thing you see when you pull into the parking lot ahead is one of the greens, the 9th green, and it's just another amenity that we have that guests will be able to enjoy long into the night. And one thing, with these putting courses or short courses that we've seen in destination resort type golf is that people aren't always trying to cram 36 holes in a given day anymore. You can't do that 3 days in a row for a lot of these groups.
Right.
So maybe they're only playing 36 one of the days. They're playing 18 and then doing the putting course one night, and 18 and doing the short course another night. And they may find it so fun that they go out. We had a kind of a preview open, and for some of our membership, and it only takes about an hour to play. So that old adage of golf takes too much time or it costs too much money, you can kind of throw those two things out the door as well, because it's $39 to play the 10 holes and free for children when accompanied by an adult, and it only takes about an hour to play.
Fantastic. Don, what's really interesting about the whole Forest Dunes experience is, unlike so many of the other resorts that you mentioned out there, you offer a variety of options, and not just a number of different courses to play, but actual options to play. And as you mentioned, time is a big factor. I've been in the golf business for 25 plus years, and I've played the game. I'm in my mid-50s, so that gives you an idea of my generation. And I learned the game when I was very, very young, before the age of 7. And, one of the things that has become very prevalent right now in golf is time. People don't have, necessarily 4 hours all the time to play, or even 5 hours in many cases. And what's unique about Forest Dunes is you have a great resort track and in Forest Dunes course itself for those that are wanting that full course experience. But yet you also add something in with the loop, which is different, a different experience altogether. Again, 18 holes, but an entirely different concept. Now you throw in the hilltop putting course, again, for those that maybe aren't as skilled and want to just go out and have a fun evening while they're there at the resort. And then now you've added on another caveat, if you will, with the short course, again, for kids to play, or for adults, again, that don't necessarily want to commit 4 hours twice a day, playing the longer course. They can go and just have some fun and take their kids out if they want, or just themselves get into some different challenging. So you've really hit all of the sweet spots, to steal a term from golf, with Forest Dunes, with all the different options there. I've been to the website, and we're going to give that here in just a second for people to actually visually see what we've been talking about here tonight. But my compliments to all those involved. Obviously, Lou is the owner, but to all of the staff at Forest Dunes and those Reuben and Johns for doing a great job on the short course. And I know you guys are excited for the official launch in a few days.
Oh, absolutely. And you hit it on the head with, variety, whether it's a variety in the courses or the variety of lodging options that we have. We don't just have your standard hotel type rooms. We also have golf villas that are located right close to the clubhouse that are either in 2 or 4 bedroom configurations. And then if you're kind of looking to be a little bit farther away from people and maybe a little more privacy, we have full scale homes on property, some of which are on a small lake right on property. Others are right on the course. So we have about 120 beds on site now, and those 3 different styles of lodging options depending on what your group is looking for. Some groups like to cook their own and grill out one of the nights and be all able to gather together. Others are, looking to be as close to the clubhouse as they can and walk to the short course or the putting course and all those different types of things. So, and that was a big, thing with the Loop as well, is when Lou Thompson spoke with the different architects that he pitched the idea of a second course at Forest Dunes for, he told them he wanted 3 things: something that would wow people, something that was going to cause them to want to stay multiple nights and have our lodging, and the third thing was something totally different than Forest Dunes. Forest Dunes, we haven't even talked about that course very much in this segment here, but it's very unique in its own right, with the front 9 being through the forest, typical parkland style golf, and then the back 9 really opens up and is where the native sand dunes are exposed, along with the scruffy native underbrush and grasses, and some people refer to that as link style, not having, before the Loop kind of came online, and that is that particularly the back 9 of Forest Dunes is very unique in its own right. But people, those courses are a dime a dozen up here in northern Michigan, and that's what you see everywhere else. And we have people that, the Loop is just the polar opposite, and it's the first time a lot of people have played anything different, and it's a total different style, and it's something that we've been able to offer, and a lot of people say it's the most authentic experience that they've had in America compared to the ones that have been lucky enough to play overseas. So to be able to have that variety, some people joke and call our parking lot the Atlantic Ocean, because all you have to do is cross from one side to the other, and you're in a total different world when it comes to the golf sector and that European fast and firm feel. So
yeah, it's a great experience all the way around, as I mentioned, and you've got so many great options. And you mentioned sort of at the top of the show, where you are out in the middle of nowhere, and people want an experience. They want to be able to get away. They want to enjoy themselves, and you've got something really a little bit for everybody, even for those that are maybe not die-hard golfers, but want to maybe experience that, but maybe aren't quite ready for the challenges that Forest Dune offers, or even the challenges that Loop offers. You've got a short course option that's, again, interesting and exciting and very versatile. And then you've got, of course, the Hilltop, putting course as well. So for somebody that's not, if you've got a family that wants to come and visit, and maybe the kids aren't quite ready to address some of the more challenging aspects of the golfing experience, there's something there for them as well. and it's a great opportunity for couples, especially in this day and age, and especially with what's going on with, our current environment. People just want somewhere to go that they can have a great experience, and you guys have got the complete package. Well done.
Well, we appreciate that, and this whole national health or worldwide health situation has really been a boom for golf, particularly in northern Michigan.
Right.
We are having just an absolute record-setting year, and it's one of the few things that people can do or feel safe doing in these times is getting out in the outdoors and playing and getting some exercise, and so it's been fortunate for us, and I think one of the unique things is that it's brought some different customers our way that we've had groups of people who were supposed to have a trip to Scotland or Ireland that's now been canceled because they can't get out of the country, and so they're looking for something in the States or in the Midwest. And then we've got groups who, when this thing first hit in late March, early April, who had a trip to Phoenix planned, and that had to get canceled, and they don't want to reschedule in the dead heat of August in Phoenix, so they're looking for something else. So it's brought some people our way that maybe didn't have trips planned, but as unfortunate it is and has adjusted our way of life, at least golf has offered an escape for many people from that situation.
Well said. Well, Don, I want to thank you very much. And as I mentioned, we want to give some information. The website, of course, is forestdunesgolf.com. You can go there and find all about all of the contact information there. You can go right there. You can book tee times on there. They've got a great digital magazine as well that you can view some of the different amenities and so forth that are available there. What's any other things that you want to say as we wrap up this segment before we go?
Sure, yeah. The best, if you're looking to book a stay and play package, the best thing to do would be either to give us a call, or there's an online stay and play request form that's available on the website where you can fill in the dates you're looking at, the amount of players you have, and the amount of golfers. Again, based on what you're looking for, your needs of your group, the length of your stay, and what our availability is, the best thing to do for booking a stay and play is give us a call so we can get to know a little bit about what your needs are and then match you up with your specific dates and what's available, or if make a recommendation if your dates are flexible and you have options in that regard. So, but we have something for everyone, and like I said, it's an absolute escape. Your blood pressure will lower, the stress and the weight of the world will be off your shoulders, and you'll be under a bowl full of stars at night by the fire pit, and during the day enjoying world-class golf. And, there's no better place in the world than Forest Dunes, in my opinion. So we hope to see you soon.
Again, well said. I'm on my way. Again, to the listeners, go to forestdunesgolf.com. All of the information that Don just mentioned is available there. You can check it out. They've got a great video that shows the property there, just absolutely breathtaking. And so many amenities, from great accommodations to even on-site dining for those that want to get away from doing their own cooking. There's some great options there as well. And also they have an online store, and you can get all the resort information there. Go to forestdunesgolf.com, and you can give them a call. The number is area code 989-275-0700 if you want to speak to somebody directly. But, Don, thank you very much for coming on Golf Talk Live tonight and sharing really a great property up in the north part of Michigan, and I wish you and your staff and everybody a successful season this year, and thank you for joining me tonight on Golf Talk Live.
Well, it was a pleasure, and we hope a lot of you get to come up here and experience golf, not just at Forest Dunes, but anywhere in northern Michigan. It's a great place, and I hope and wish everybody stays safe out there with the with all the situations that we're under. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Again, Don, thank you very much for joining me tonight, and go out and enjoy that great property this weekend. You're a lucky man. I'm jealous. I wish I was there. I'm going to make my way there. I promise I'm going to do that very soon. Again, Don, thank you very much for joining me.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Good night. All right. That was my very special guest, Don Helinski, Director of Operations at Forest Dunes Golf Club in northern Michigan. If you go to forestdunesgolf.com, as I mentioned, all of the information there as far as stay and play packages, lots of great resort information, and many options to play some great golf from the Forest Dunes golf course to the Loop, and also the Hilltop putting course, and the newly opening, in a week's time, their new short course is going to be opening up here, I believe, either August 1st or August 2nd. So you want to definitely check it out. So if you're looking at, getting away and just, looking for something to do, and even if you're not a diehard golfer, but you just want a great place to stay, there's a lot of different things that you can do right on site. So make sure you check them out. So go to forestdunesgolf.com to get all of the information there. All right, I want to thank everybody again for tuning in to this week's broadcast. Again, a special thanks to John Hughes and John Decker for firing up the Coach's Corner panel tonight. And once again, thanks to Don Helinski, Director of Operations at Forest Dunes Golf Club in northern Michigan. God bless everybody. I will see you next week right here on Golf Talk Live. Take care. Thanks for listening to this evening's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. Remember to tune in each week at blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live. If you can't join us live, check out the on-demand section for previously aired broadcasts, or listen on any of the following social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course, Spotify. To get updates on future shows and upcoming guests, be sure to visit the show's Facebook page, Golf Talk Live blog. You can also follow me on Twitter at Ted and Buck CEO. Remember to join me live each week for another great broadcast of Golf Talk Live. See you next time. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.